Welcome back, everyone. With me, I have our guest, this first guest today, Craig Robinson. Welcome to Climb, Craig. It's great to have you today.
Thank you very much, Brad. I'm very happy to be on your show.
Yeah, so you and I are going to talk about something that is near and dear to every business owner's heart, cash flow. I think we both know, and all of you listening know, that cash flow can be the destruction of any business. It is a serious issue in the independent pharmacy world, and so that's what we want to talk about: ways to improve that. Now, you and I've talked quite a bit over the years. We've known each other for a long time, and you talk really when you're talking about cash flow. You talk about two different philosophies. Share, please.
Yes. Currently, the majority of pharmacies are they're in a stress situation, and there is the rebate philosophy, and then there is the environment we work in, which is the non-rebate philosophy, and that lends itself more to transparency. And having those two, at least now as an independent pharmacist, there's a choice now that you can make, and unfortunately, the definition of rebates is the opposite of cash flow, because the money's coming from somebody else's bank account. A transparent cash flow model means that money always resides in your bank account. That's the simplest way to look at it.
Okay. Yeah, and the other thing about rebate is it's in the future.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Which is kind of the antithesis of cash flow.
It
Right?
is. Brad, you're 100%, on target on that. Is the very term rebate would mean that you can't have cash flow because that's somebody else's cash flow.
Right.
And we're talking fairly large numbers. So cash is king. Having that money in your bank account allows you to survive, the worst day in a pharmacist owner's life, and it usually happens once or twice a month, is they have payroll is due. They're on 2-week terms, so now their bill is due, and all of a sudden PBM hits them with a DIR fee, and it's all hitting on the same day. And now they have to go to the bank for a short-term bridge loan, and we all know that those banks don't give that money away. So right. That comes out of your directly out of your gross profit. So it allows you to build up enough reserve in your bank account so that you can take these bumps, and it's not costing you 2, 3, 4, 5% of gross margin in your overall business.
Yeah, I mean, that ends up being huge. And just the stress of this situation is distracting. It takes away for your focus on patient care, on running the business. I think every business owner, I remember the early days 22 years ago, when was starting RMS, and you've probably experienced it in your business as well, where, cash flow is like, okay, I'm dialing for dollars today. Where am I gonna find the money? And there is really, that is when you read about stress that we go through in life, that is one of the top stressors there is in the world, financial stress. And so, to know that independent pharmacies and businesses are going through this on a regular basis, and for many people out there, multiple times a month, that's really that's a really draining experience.
Well, when you talk about stress, I can't tell you how many times I talk to an independent pharmacy owner, and he discusses how, the biggest change for them is they can sleep at night. I mean, it breaks your heart. You can hear the stress in their voice, and independent pharmacists are so dedicated to their community that many of them will go and refinance their home to keep the business going, to take care of their community. And Brad, you and I both are here to help those people so that they can take care of these communities, so that you don't have people, you don't have Aunt M jumping in the car and she's 90 years old and she's driving 80 miles each way to get her prescription. We're facing unusual times here.
No, absolutely. Well, and we hear so much of a focus on profit and profitability, and which obviously you have to have. If you're not profitable, that's a whole nother problem, and you're definitely not going to have cash flow. But you can be profitable and still have a cash flow problem, and that's, I think, something that isn't taught about in pharmacy school, isn't talked about a lot in even business school.
Yeah.
And so people sometimes forget about that component of things until it hits, and it hits hard. So let's talk about that second philosophy.
All right. And here's the second philosophy is we hear a lot. You and I have gone to many of the same conventions where everybody's talking, and you hear it constantly of, I would like to see transparency. Why can't I see transparency? Well, as you so astutely said early on in this show, is that transparency is taken away with rebates. There are things called, with prime vendor agreements, there's a reason why they're 52 pages long. And they have very complicated matrix, these kind of things of what you qualify, what you don't qualify, and sometimes they're contradictory. And so you can never know, given in a given month, what you're going to get back and what you qualify for. And it's on purpose that way so that you don't know. Our philosophy is this: step away from the rebate. Okay, don't just go, what I'm going to go with is my invoice price, what I'm invoiced at. Okay. The instant that you say, I'm going to go what is on paper and what I am billed at, then you have transparency, because at that moment, you know exactly what you're paying. Okay. That's the big separation. There's no mystery at all involved in that.
And gee, that seems so simple.
It's
so logical.
It actually is, but it's very hard to do because, Brad, when you were working, at your father's pharmacy, they were, back in the day, rebates were good because there's so much competition for your business. So you get this extra rebate. And plus, there was all sorts of things where pharmacies were very profitable. So you were carrying your cash flow far enough that you could absorb those. Now it isn't that way, and you don't have the cash flow. So now you have to be very careful about that. And what you had said before, you can be profitable, but not have cash flow. That is true. You technically, you could be profitable on paper, but you actually never see it. I would say that you probably, with the cash flow situation, what people have to be mindful of, and I talk about this quite a bit when someone calls me up, is they say, well, I don't really have a cash flow problem. What I really am interested in is savings. You need to identify the difference between cash flow and liquidity. You might have gotten a loan and you're flush. You have liquidity, you're paying your bills. That is not cash flow. Cash flow, you could have a negative cash flow situation, which means over time you're burning down your liquidity, and then you don't have liquidity until it's gone. So, these are kind of heavy accounting things, but like you said, once you sort of step back from it, it is very straightforward and simple.
So, I you're a partner at Cortland Data. You guys, your product is RX Cherry Pick. We're not here to plug RX Cherry Pick, but it's impossible to have the conversation about how this can be transparent without talking about the service that you offer.
Yes.
And again, just to get people to understand how this actually works, and why this is transparent, and why this is different from the model that the vast majority of independent pharmacies are under the rebate model, and have never, and don't feel like there's another choice out there.
Yes.
So take a moment to explain that philosophy further, and how it's actually, how you actually pull this off.
Yes. And as you know, Brad, I can't go into too much detail because there is a certain amount of pressure on us. It is having, first of all, our service is 100% free to independent pharmacies. So, it has a powerful impact. If you're paying, if you're on 2-week terms, I'm going to give you the secret formula, Brad. This is the first time out there, and this is a gross underestimate. You can figure out how much cash flow that can be generated for you by going to a non-rebate model. Take your daily prescriptions, the number of prescriptions you write each day, that average, and multiply it times $1,000. So if you do 200 prescriptions a day, I didn't go to Wharton, and I know Brad didn't go to Wharton, but it's $200,000. And that will occur within the first 6, 8, 10 weeks. If you're on daily terms, it happens, it starts building the next day. Okay. So really our service is, what you do is you build your order on RX Cherry Pick. And then we look at it as a basket. What gives you best terms? What, we don't have, we're familiar with the other platforms that are pricing platforms, and they take all comers, of any manufacturer, blah, 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 any wholesaler. We really put a lot of pressure on our top wholesalers to deliver and give us exclusive deals. And that allows you then to start creating the alternate model to a rebate model, is just, let's keep the money in your bank account so that your bank is happy with you, and your accountant is really happy with you.
So let's back up for a second, because people are gonna, I would be going, okay, you told me to take the number of prescriptions, multiply by 1,000, that's 200,000. I'm going to see that in 2 weeks. That sounds too good to be true. And where did that number come from?
Yeah.
So let's
explain. Really good at this. You ask good questions. Where does that number come from? And it's not 2 weeks, it's 10 weeks, 8 to 10 weeks. Okay. 2 weeks. I know you, Brad, you always push the envelope.
I misquoted. I heard what I wanted to hear.
I wish it was 2 weeks. Where that money has always existed. It exists in the system. All we're doing is saying that $200,000 now, because it is no longer built in as a rebate, exists in your bank account. And in this aspect, which I say is grossly underestimated, because we're not even factoring in the savings, is really a element of terms. The longer terms you have, we can help you smooth out your payments, so you don't have these big bubble payments that you got to make, all that kind of stuff. So, it is true that it is a factor of the money exists. That's how much money is being taken away from you, just on the terms. That's all.
And and so just to follow up on that, so and the number you're using, this is just from the experience of your existing clients. Is that
Yes.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And that takes me to what's going to happen next month. Next month you're going to be back, but next month we're going to bring a couple of your pharmacies and pharmacy owners that have experienced this and been on both sides,
Yep.
and they're going to be talking about the impact that it had on their business and how this has worked out for them.
Yes.
So that's a really exciting. So for all of you that are listening to this today, we wanted to give you, a little bit of a feel for what we're talking about. Give you some time to think about that, and then next month, your peers who have experienced this are going to be here to share their stories. Well, Craig, do you have anything that you want to wrap up with? Any final comments?
No, I think we're good. I'm very happy that we're going to have a couple of more of these chats. I think, Brad, as you reach out to your viewers, I look forward to answering any questions, that kind of a thing. We still have a couple of subjects we need to cover in the future: savings and also working capital. And I look very much very forward to doing this again with you, Brad.
Yeah, and it's absolutely right. That's the next. We're going to do this next one with a couple of your customers, and then we're just going to continue this series, because this is the stuff that it doesn't get taught to business owners. It doesn't get taught. It doesn't get taught in pharmacy school.
No.
And quite frankly, I have an MBA. It wasn't from Wharton, as you really nicely pointed out to everybody. Texas Tech, go Red Raiders.
Well, at least your college had a cool name, not Gophers.
Go Minnesota. But yeah, that it's exciting, because these are things that are real, and they're very, very important to running a successful business. And I think that that's what we're trying to do, is help.
Yes. And Brad, I think you're doing a great service. I've watched a number of your podcasts, and your concern for the independent pharmacists and having the independent pharmacists survive and the community sense, they are under tremendous pressure. And without the efforts that you're doing, it just, what you're doing is so important.
Well, I appreciate the kind words, and of course, I feel the same with what you're doing. And there are a bunch of us out there that are really passionate and trying to help, and and so we're trying to bring a lot of those people on as well. But thank you for the kind words. Thank you for joining us today, and I look forward to having you back next month.
Very good, Brad. Thanks a bunch.
Yep. Take care, Craig.
Bye-bye.